Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes on the Rebirth server. We are with our now level 34 Barut Quintessence Lass, who has 2.5 million XP earned, just about. Needs over half a million to get to level 35. We have 6 million influence left, and we're on a story arc for Peter Stamets. But before we do that, just want to mention that I did level up. I added one slot to Energy Cloak, and I had an invention enhancement, so we went ahead and added defense buff to that. It now gives us about a 6% defense buff, which is just about enough to bother putting it in. I feel like if it's below 3 or 4%, there's no point to putting the enhancers on, but we can add about 2% to our defense, which is not inconsiderable. It does help a little bit. Um, I also added two slots to Shadow Punch. We have these empty slots from Siphon Life. I haven't actually picked up in the recipes any heals. So I decided to deal with it by having Nightmare Lass send us a little influence and some extra heal inventions that were just sitting in her enhancement table, so why not? So normally I try to at least have the character invent the recipes that drop for the character when we're doing generic inventions, but it's been like 2 levels and we haven't been able to get these things in here. So let's go ahead and just pop them in. This is now going to heal us 229 hit points every single time we do this. So this is going to be a great heal. We can do it every slightly less than 7.3 seconds because we have an 8% recharge time. So it's about every 7 seconds we can do Siphon Life. And that is pretty awesome. So I think the next power we're going to work on, at level 35, we're going to get a defense power. This is Energize, which is a self-endurance discount, heal, and plus regen, which is great. I don't know what we're going to be doing for slots for that, but in terms of slots for our offensive, these defensive powers are basically done, although we might want to put some recharge and energy drain. I'm putting that on a low priority because we can also gain energy from dark consumption. What I want to work on next is Soul Drain and Midnight Grasp. So we want to get rechargers into Soul Drain, and we definitely want to start buffing up Midnight Grasp. So those guys have to come next. So we have to work on those. Remember, I said in the previous episode that I played my martial arts scrapper a little bit to get her off of a level 29 exemplar down story arc from Ouroboros on the Homecoming servers. And one of the things that I realized was she was just doing so much more damage so much faster than this character. And of course, the reason is all of her attacks are 6 slots. So we got to get this damage going. We now have fully damage enhanced Smite. We've got Shadow Maul on a set, which is awesome. And we're now almost fully damage enhanced Shadow Punch. So that's going to get finished next on level 36. We'll do that. We may be putting one enhancement in here and then maybe a recharge on Soul Drain. And then we'll start moving Soul Drain and Midnight Grasp as quickly as we can. It's going to take until like 40th level to get all of this enhanced. And I've left Touch of Fear in here because I don't think we can put another power that needs enhancers into our build right now. I also managed to, by adventuring, gather another one of these endurance modification enhancers, so I slotted that in. And Tiger Strike was able to get the one of these Brute Fury enhancers. I think she has enough to do the remaining, at least 3 of the remaining 4 in terms of reward merits. She might not quite have enough to do all 4, but she's got enough to do the 3 of the remaining 4. And by the time she's done that, which is going to take me about 2 weeks because you have to wait 4 days in between each one, this character should have enough resources to get the last one. And so we should, sometime in the next 10 episodes, have a second set done. And since this is all about damage and endurance and recharge, it's going to go on one of our damagey powers, possibly Midnight Grasp. More likely it'll go on to Smite or Shadow Punch because we use those so much. Alright, so we're on a story arc. Let's continue that. Stemmet says, I had a chance to speak with Azuria over at Magi about those crystals you found in the Circle's library. I think you need to get over there and talk to her right away. So we're going to go talk to Azuria. So what you guys are going to see now And this isn't surprising as we go through the 30s in the level range, as we go through this season. Well, actually next season, because this season will end at level 35. That's typically what I do, and then we'll move into another season for level 35 to 36 to 40. As we move through this and the next season in particular, you're going to see this character getting to be more and more awesome, because we're going to be enhancing these powers, and they're just going to be getting better and better. And as we start building sets and stuff, it's just going to become unbelievable. All right, so let's head in and talk to Azuria. You know, it's interesting. I don't think I've used Azuria very much on my actual characters, because if you think about it, Silver Phoenix is natural. This character is science. Doesn't have to talk to Azuria for most quests. Tiger Strike was mutation. The only magic character I've done a stream on has been Nightmare Lass, but she was a villain, so she didn't talk to Azuria. So other than this quest, and maybe one other, like, I haven't played any characters who use Azuria as an actual contact, which is really weird, because in live I played several different magical characters. She says, Circle Mystic Akaris pointed our research in the proper direction. Thanks to him, we now know exactly what these crystals are. They are receptacles, crystalline cages for the souls of those who have been cast from their bodies by the Circle of Thorns. The brightly glowing crystal contains over a dozen such souls, from an ancient Roman centurion to a Dawn Patrol hero who disappeared in the late 30s. That shadowed crystal is a prison for souls who have been uncooperative. We believe that there are 2 spirits trapped in there right now. Finally, the clear crystal is used to transport a captured soul. It seems you didn't raid a library of arcane lore, but a library of souls. Yes, the library of lost souls. One of the displaced souls told us a horrifying thing about the Circle's Spirit Thorns. We aren't yet sure we can trust it, but we do know that the Circle plans to release several of these Spirit Thorns onto the black market. You must stop this. Well, we're definitely going to do that. We're going to recover the Spirit Thorns. Yeah, so as I was saying, we're going to start seeing the character become more and more effective now that we have fully enhanced, nearly, Shadow Punch, and then we fully enhanced like 3 of these 4 powers that we use all the time. They're going to be so much more effective. And I've said this before when I was first learning to play this game. I think all of us were like this. What we really wanted were the levels where you get new powers, the even levels when you first start. We wanted the new powers because we thought getting new powers was cool. But what you learn as you play this game is unenhanced powers are often unimpressive. And it's really only after you've enhanced them for recharge speed or endurance reduction or heal bonus or whatever that they suddenly become super useful and make you really powerful. So a lot of it is about how you enhance the character. And so as a veteran player, what I actually prefer are the levels where you gain slots, because that's what makes the powers effective. Okay, so we're now going to recover the Spirit Thorns across the water here. And of course, that's without sets, right? You don't even need sets for it to be true that what you really want is enhancements on your powers to make them more effective. You can see that even without sets, this character has become increasingly effective, right? We have one set that we just put in, but this character has become more and more effective and more powerful, not just because we've leveled up, right? Because the enemies kind of stay on par with you as you level up. What makes you more effective is being able to do your powers more often, right? Wait till you see how effective this character is when we can do Soul Drain every minute instead of every 2 minutes. That's going to make it much more effective. Right? We can do it in nearly every battle, whereas now we're basically holding it until we really need it, right? Because you're not going to be able to use it again. Let's use it here, because these guys are going to be hard to hit. And this will buff our 2-hit a little bit. And there is Soul Drain. Look at all that healing we do. Excellent. And the next thing I'm dying to enhance is Midnight Grasp, because that's a super good power. And we definitely want to enhance that for damage. So we need to recover the Spirit Thorns. Can't remember now. I think they were in glowies. Oh yeah, this is this really short adventure. I don't like the super long ones, but this is like way too short. They should have put a little more meat on the bones of this thing. You know, have it be a couple of glowies. Maybe put a boss in here, you know. The negotiator or the salesman or something. And somebody remind me. Yeah, I know you guys can't. You'll be watching this days after I record it. I've got to go buy accuracy inspirations if we're going to keep fighting Circle, because of their debuffs. Alright, so we found the Spirit Thorns. Since we've done this story arc on 2 different characters, I'm not going to be super deliberative and descriptive about what we're finding. I assume that if anybody wants to really get the details in all their glory, you can just watch the Silver Phoenix or Tiger Strike playthroughs. So we got a mutation enhancement. That doesn't do anything for us. We're pretty much, if you look at our enhancements, let's just take a quick look here. We're almost completely off of SOs. We just have a few in here. Right? We have about 10 SOs left. We have none in our primary. And we have 1 really that's necessary in our pool. These others can stay SOs because we don't really need, you know, that's fine. So we basically have about 12 enhancements left that have to be turned into non-SOs, turned into inventions, and the other like 20 or 30 of them are already inventions. So when we hit like, by the time we get to level 37, we should be able to get rid of most of those and beyond inventions for the rest of this character's existence, which is pretty cool. And then we'll start looking into sets for those powers. You just can't do that yet because we need reward merits for those sets, and we're trying to spend those reward merits on the archetype in Origin sets, which are incredibly expensive. They take almost 3,000 reward merits, and that just takes a while. You can get an average of about, I want to say 75 of them, maybe 50 of them every week, just by getting the veteran rewards. You frequently will get 25 times veteran reward merits cards. Sometimes you'll get a 75x. Occasionally you get 100x. I think I would say on average you get about 50, because you get 25s most of the time and 75 some of the time, and occasionally 100. And so to get like 500 merits takes 10 weeks. If you're not counting the story arcs, right? The story arcs don't give you that many merits. You maybe can get another 50 merits a week from doing a couple of story arcs at this pace that I go, right? So maybe 100 a week. If you need 2,000 merits, it's 20 weeks. I mean, there's just no way to do it faster. Maybe farming you could, not sure. She says, from the souls trapped within these crystals, we have learned the true nature of the Spirit Thorns. We always assumed that they were relics of power given to the Circle's favorite members. Now we know that they're traps. When a mage plunges a Spirit Thorn into his heart, it opens a gateway into his very soul that the Circle can exploit. Through it, they can possess the Thorn Bearer, overriding his will, supplanting and imprisoning his very soul. Quintessence less, this is vile and evil magic. Yes, it is. Let's talk to Stemets, who says, trap souls and crystal Spirit Thorns that destroy crystals in the Circle of Thorns, presiding over it all from the depths of Ornbega. It's unbelievable. Simply amazed that the Circle has been using those Spirit Thorns to override the souls of new devotees. He then says, souls trapped within the circle's crystals continue to give Azuria more information about the circle and their sunken city of Orenbega. One of them claims to know the location of a great library of souls, where many more of the spirits were kept. Will you take the crystal to containing a dead man's soul to find the place where he died? So now we have to find the body of the guy who's giving them all this information, right? Find my dead body. So we're going to find landmarks and see if we can find his body. So we've got his crystal with his soul in it. He doesn't quite remember exactly where he died, so we've got to find the location. So we're going to go to Talus Island. How are we doing on time? 15 minutes, all right. So since this is pretty far off in Talus Island usually, let's just go ahead and auto-teleport there. Taking a long time to load again for some reason. It happens sometimes and not others. There we go. You can see how far up we are, and that's why I went here, because I knew that we were going to be doing a lot of jumping a mile and a half outside the island, and I figured you guys wouldn't want to watch it, and I wouldn't want to do it. And we can come back through Ouroboros if we want. And there's Acarist again. Level 36, and I forgot to get accuracy inspirations, didn't I, guys? That's just stupid. Alright, well, we'll be fine. Let's soul drain him. Come on, soul drain. Why didn't it go off? There we go. And we want to debuff him as much as possible. Of course, he's also debuffing me. There we go. Nice self-heal. I love that. Good deal. Alright, so we need to find 3 landmarks. Oh, we're super fortunate that this is Devouring Earth and not Circle. We are very, very fortunate. They are much easier to hit than Circle. I mean, these guys, sometimes the bedrocks are a little hard to hit, but it's not like being debuffed by the Circle. Alright, so we need to find 3 landmarks to help this guy remember how he died, I guess. Or who he was. This guy was probably a Karis buddy and ended up spawning in the wrong place, maybe? This is going to be a huge cave. If you look at the size of it, look at that. Because you remember this story for mapping, like in old school D&D, you had a sheet of graph paper and you would use a pencil and an eraser and you would map out a dungeon. Now with my friends and I, you know, whoever the DM was, would draw on the map the cave entrance when you were entering the dungeon, right? And they would draw it, you know, in a location that would make it so that you could draw the map. And so Gary Gygax was DMing somebody one time, a group of players. I don't know if it was in a tournament or something. And they said, where should we start the map? And he said, start it wherever you want. And the players were kind of insistent. Look, just draw the entrance in a place that makes sense. So Gygax said, okay. And he drew the entrance in like the left corner of the cave, sorry, of the map, the cave entrance. And then almost immediately the map took them off to the left and off the page. Yeah, that's a jerky thing to do, honestly. But I always remember that story and think it's kind of funny. My friends and I were always very cooperative about that. We tried to make sure that we were helping each other we were trying to make sure that we were helping each other um, map accurately. We weren't trying to give each other inaccurate information and screw up the map. Now, of course, if you screwed up the map, that was your problem, right? But I mean, I always remember my best friend, who's playing in the game with me now as a player that I run. Um, when he was DM, a couple times we ended up in these like irregular caves, and he was just like, give me the map because you're never going to be able to draw. I'm never going to be able to describe it, and you're never going to be able to draw it. It's just too hard to describe because it was like this, right? And how are you going to map all the jaggedy stuff? So he was just here. Let me draw it for you, right? We didn't want completely inaccurate information, and it's also sort of out of character to get completely inaccurate information because your your characters can see the cave, right? Assuming they have infravision, or now they call it dark vision, or torches, and they can see that they're in a 30 by 30 foot room with an entrance in the middle of the south wall. They wouldn't draw it wrong, right? So why should you draw it wrong? So so yeah, we always tried to help each other as much as possible with the maps. And one of the things that one of the reasons why mapping itself was frequently kind of encoded into the game, into an adventure as a challenge, is that in old school D&D, the way it worked was that dungeons had levels, and the like vertical levels going down into the depths or up into a tower, depending on what the dungeon actually was. And so they had levels, and there were stairways or pit traps or whatever that would make you change levels, right? Normally stairways. And the way it worked is the level of the monster or the level of the challenges was the level of the dungeon, the vertical level inside the dungeon. So when you were on the first level of a dungeon, you enter the dungeon and it's at ground level under a hill, and you're on the first level of that dungeon. When you're on that level, you're fighting monsters that are suitable to first level characters. Oh, this guy. When you are on the second level of the dungeon, you're fighting monsters that are suitable to the second level of character levels, right? Second level of experience. When you're on the third level of a dungeon, it's appropriate to level 3 characters. And so one of the things that was typically done in old school, like original D&D, and I would say even before AD&D, because this had, I think by AD&D had kind of changed a little bit, but in original D&D, the original 3 books, one of the things that used to be done by the DM, it was like supposed to be done, and the players kind of knew that this was part of the game, was to try and find a way to deceive the players into changing levels to a harder level without realizing it. Stairways, right? Oh, there is, we know where we're going. Okay, great. But they would like slope the floor down at a very gentle grade that would only be detectable if you stopped and searched. There's a reason why, heck, if you watch Critical Role, one of the characters, the monk, is always walking around with a sack full of ball bearings. Why did she have a sack of ball bearings? It's old school D&D. Why did a lot of characters walk around with sacks of ball bearings? Because you could put a ball bearing on the floor and let go. And if you were on a sloping corridor, the ball bearing would roll in the direction of the slope. So you would check corridors occasionally to see, are we inadvertently moving deeper into the dungeon to a lower level and going into a harder part of the dungeon, right? There wouldn't be any other way to tell unless you were a dwarf, because dwarves had a certain probability of detecting slopes underground. And why do they have that probability? Because again, if you have a dwarf in your party, then it's harder for the DM to trick you into going into a tougher part of the dungeon than you're ready for. And so a lot of this was kind of, it almost was sort of DM against the players, where the DM was trying to find ways, it was really to challenge the players, but also kind of, as a player, knowing that this possibility was there, you then had to be aware. This is why the 10-foot pole was a very common, I hear the glowy, a very common item to put in your inventory as a player. Where's this thing? We're right on it. Somehow we got to go up. It's above us. You had a 10-foot pole because you were going to check the floor for traps, right? And a pit trap or something, and there may be no other way to detect it than by poking the floor and seeing if the floor opens up, right? And so it seems superficially like it's the DM against the players, but it wasn't really, because it was known that these were risks. And there's a reason why players would walk around with, one of them would have a sack of ball bearings, and one of them would have a 10-foot pole, and one of them would have iron spikes, so you could spike it. What do you use that for? You used it to spike the door closed. You would jam the spikes into the floor, spike the door closed, so that you could rest in a room and wandering monsters couldn't come in. Otherwise, there was a chance the DM could roll a die, and I think it was, and the basic said it was like 1d8 every so many hours. And if you rolled a 1, a wandering monster is going to show up. Okay, where is this thing? I'm going to have to go down and come back, I think. Because you have to, like, wind your way up somehow. I really hate these. I wish it was just in the open. Right on it. Okay, here it is. It's just under. That's fine. In the open is fine. I don't like it when it's in some little nook that you can't find. All right. So we're back out here. We're going to call our contact, who says, "Thanks for helping Ashton Soul get his bearings. Now that he's oriented himself, he should be able to take us to the underground library where the circle has imprisoned the souls." We've done some short episodes, so let's go ahead and do this one. "With your help, one of the trapped souls you recovered has shown us the way to the greater library of lost souls. Deep within Oren Bega, the souls of hundreds are possessed. Will you go and liberate them?" Yes, we're going to, but we're actually going to go out to Ouroboros first, because I don't feel like jumping all the way down there. And then, we're going to have to come back and jump over there anyway, but we're going to go to Ouroboros because we're going to go to the store, and I'm going to remember this time to buy my accuracy inspirations, my insights. There we go. Do we have any things we can sell? I don't need temporary powers. I don't need stun. I don't need sleep. What is this? To hit debuff? Okay, well, we can hold on to that. And this one is immobilized. We don't need that. Okay, yes, Midnight Grasp does immobilize. I don't give a damn about that. I'm not interested in immobilizing my foes. I'm usually standing toe-to-toe with them anyway. The main reason I want Midnight Grasp is for damage. It does awesome damage. Okay, so let's go to the mission. We're on +1. We should be fine. I don't know if there's an elite boss in this mission. I don't think so. I don't think so. These are the really old ones often don't have an elite boss unless they had an archvillain in them. But there weren't that many of the old story arcs that ended with archvillains. There were some. Right, Vajjalak was one. The first, that was like to teach you how to fight archvillains at level like 18, 19, 20. The Envoy of Shadows is one. And that one you could fight multiple times. But I don't know if there was one in this one. We're perfectly fine to fight elite bosses with this character. She's going to kick their butts. I mean, with all these really big plus 25% defense, just pop one of them and we've got him almost floored. So we don't have to worry about that. And with our Siphon Life upping us by over 200 hit points every time we use it, and the ability to use it every like 7 or 8 seconds, we're gonna have no problem against an elite boss. And once again, I got fooled by this stupid diamond-shaped intersection. I always just blunder into a two-spawn situation. I think the reason my brain just never clocks it, even though I've seen it like 80 times now, maybe more like 800 times, is just because these are really, really close for spawns. Most spawns are not this close. It's very unusual to get spawns being this close, and so my brain's just never ready for it, even though I've experienced it multiple times. This is just one of those spots. The other spot, again, with multiple spawns, is in the lab where you're coming in and you go kind of to the left and you come through, and then there's like this area with ramps going up on either side, and there are usually 2 spawns, one on either side, and I've been killed in there. And more than once, because even though I know what room that is, my brain just takes a second to clock the fact that that I'm in that room and there are 2 spawns here and I better watch out. So we're going to have to crawl all over this library to find 10 souls, so we got to go everywhere. There really isn't any, I think, particularly efficient way to do this. We just have to map crawl. So this is going to be a fairly long episode because it's a big map and and we're doing a map crawl, but we should be okay. I mean, there should be no chance that they're going to send me to the hospital or anything, I wouldn't think. Yeah, one of my friends on the old supergroup, which isn't a supergroup anymore, but we still chat in the Discord, she was saying something like, and I mean, this game's been back on private servers now for close to 2 years. She's talking about starting farming. I'm like, why would you start now? She has multiple level 50s. Why do you need to farm? I guess she wants to do Incarnate Trials, but I feel like she's already said she doesn't really do them that much. So I'm not really sure what the need is to farm, other than maybe just to have, you know, the perfect combo of sets that she always wanted with her character. One of the other members of the supergroup who I've always thought of as being kind of a one of the really, I don't know, Uber players, if you want to call it that, actually said that most of her characters are like level 50 with 20 or 30 veteran levels, but they're not really tricked out either. It was really funny. She said they're basically naked in terms of slots, and I'm like, I assume that means this, right? This would, other than this whole thing would be considered naked because it's not sets, and these might be naked too because they're not purple. There is another crystal. So yeah, I'm always like happy when I get the generic invention enhancers, and everybody in my supergroup thinks you're literally practically not enhanced. All right, we're gonna need a 2-hit buff here because this is a lieutenant. What we want to do is try and debuff him as much as possible so he can't do too much debuffing. That one thing that he just did with his arms, this is well, that's quicksand. No, he did something else. He had Chill of the Night. I don't think that's on a 2-hit. I think it's just automatically hits. So we couldn't debuff that. And this is why I brought a bunch of accuracies in here, because, yep, it takes 2 of them just to hit that guy. One trick, by the way, guys, if you're fighting enemies like this Earth Thorn and the regular guide, Guide's not hard to hit. Earth Thorn is, because Earth Thorn has a defense buff. And you've got something like Siphon Life. Always, always, always target the guy that has the lower defense to do the Siphon Life, and then retarget the other guy if you're working on him. Right? And that just helps ensure that you'll get the buff, right, or the bonus or the heal. Right? So target the guy who has the lowest defense if you can for the thing that's going to buff you, and then you can go back to doing damage to whoever you want. Right? Like, this behemoth is not as hard to hit, so I'm going to use him to do Siphon Life. Then I can go back to the Earth Thorn caster to beat him up. Right? Because otherwise there's too high of a chance you're going to, 50-50 chance or worse that you're going to miss on the Siphon Life. Right? So you do the Siphon Life to the guy you can hit. Like that, and then you go back to the guy you're having trouble hitting. That's just a way to ensure that you're getting the buff you need, so that in case you really need that heal, you're not like, oh crap, I missed. And by the way, I walked into it again. There are 2 spawns here. I just got lucky that the other guy didn't see me. Or would have been in some trouble here, because I wouldn't. This is a red lieutenant that I'm not going to be able to hit either. So again, let's try Soul Drain, see if we can get the buff for that. Yeah, I think, as I said last time, I think Circle of Thorns is by far the most annoying faction. Because the thing they're doing to you, as annoying as endurance training is in the upper levels from both the Carnies and the Malta Sappers, and as annoying as the force field, well, the force field generators are too, but as annoying as the force field generators of the Sky Raiders, or as annoying as the operations engineers of the Maltas when they pull out the stupid auto turrets, that stuff's all kind of annoying, but the most annoying is just the constant missing. And the Circle has so many different mob types that their main thing they do is make you miss. And yes, it does make them a little harder because you got to stand in there longer, but it, more than hard, it makes them incredibly annoying. So I mean, I think thematically I really like the Circle, but operationally, mechanically, fighting them I hate, because it's constant missing, and I hate to miss. Especially when I've really geared my character with all these enhancements and stuff to be accurate. Right? I've done the work to make her accurate. Doesn't matter, she misses all the time anyway against these guys. Oh no, are we going into one of these areas? Oh, let's stay out of here for now. Let's see if we can get this without going into the force field area. I think we're probably going to have no choice. But let's see if we can try to avoid that, if at all possible. I saw another big area over here. Here we go. By the way, in case you're wondering, one of the other tactical decisions I've made several times now, I've mentioned before, and I've made it operational most of the time, that the first guy I go to in a spawn with this character is the most powerful one, usually the lieutenant, because I want to debuff the lieutenant. But you've seen me a few times go after a minion when there's a lieutenant on the field. It's not a mistake. I mean, well, sometimes it's a mistake, but most of the time, it's not a mistake. The reason I've done it is that when you... I hear a glowy. Where is it? There it is. The reason I've done it is that when you are fighting something like Earth Thorn casters, right, I need to get them off the field as much as possible because they're both doing quicksand to me and they're really hard to hit. Whereas, like, the Behemoth guys aren't that hard to hit, at least for me, because I'm not surrounding them, and so their invincibility doesn't do much. And the lieutenants don't often get that much of a defense buff anyway, right? So it's always like, try to hit the guy that is the most effective against you first when you're doing dark melee to me, because that debuffs that guy. And also, you want to, whether it's dark melee or not, you want to go after the guy that's the most effective against you to get him out of the battle as early as possible. Right? So with Spectre Demons, with the ghosts, you're always going to hit the ghost first, because you've got to get rid of them. Right? They will make your life miserable if you don't. I hear a glowy. There should be one inside here somewhere. There it is. We're down to 4 after this one. And I hear another glowy, so there should be one maybe downstairs in here. It's fading. I hear it over here. It's over there. There. Okay. So that takes care of the glowies in this section. Any over here? Doesn't look like it. Let's head down. There are going to be multiple ways out of here. This might lead us back up. I'm not really sure. We need to find at least 2 more. That should mark the 3rd one. And here we are with multiple spawns again. Let's pull one out. Come on. Right, so again, the Earth Thorns are a higher priority than the Lieutenant because they are debuffing us. I try to get rid of them as fast as possible, but we're going to use the Lieutenant to get our Siphon life back. There we go. And then beat up the Earth Thorn again, and now we're okay against the Lieutenant. We should be. I can heal better than you can. Actually, I wasn't watching. He might have had more. He might have healed better than I did. I didn't watch how many points he got back. Alright, now we have the demon. The Nerva demon is by far the most important to get here. Let's go ahead and take an accuracy. Go on in. Now, Siphon Life there is okay against these guys, the demons, because they don't have any particular defense. They're just capable of debuffing you, right? And so it doesn't matter who you target once they've debuffed you, you're going to miss regardless, potentially. But, like, if I want to do Siphon Life to one of these guys, I'm going Behemoth Overlord, because I'm not going to hit the Earth Thorn caster because he's not debuffing me, he's buffing himself. Anyway, that's just sort of how I do it. Obviously, there are lots of ways that you could do this. Lots of different tactics you could use. My God, look at the size of this. We've been through maybe 2/3 of it. Okay, so there should be... Yeah. Oh, this is perfect. We got 2 of them up here, and hopefully it'll mark the last one on the map. We should have to fight Akarist again, but I'm not sure. Okay, did it mark it? It did, so now we're going to go back. Is Akarist in here? I mean, I'm not going to bother worrying about the individual minions, but if Akarist is in here, the Librarian, okay, we're going to fight the boss. I mean, we always fight bosses. That's cool. So it's just an Earththorn caster and a boss. So this is where I'm going after the Earththorn caster first, because he's going to be too much of a pain otherwise. Oh, is he going to get healed? Alright, well, then we can't go after him first. Nothing I can do about that. Gotta debuff this guy then. If he wasn't healing the Earth Thorn, then I would have been, I think, correct to take out the Earth Thorn first. But the problem is, with him healing, there's no way to take out the Earth Thorn, because his heal will happen so frequently compared to how often I hit the Earth Thorn caster that I will never... Basically, the battle would go on forever. It's not worth it. Okay, so we're going to head up. And up. And back to find the final soul. So Akaris doesn't seem to be the librarian. I could have sworn we fought him more times than this in the Library of Lost Souls, but maybe I'm wrong. I hate this room. I really do. It's just so hard to navigate. Okay. So we're just going to head back and get the last item. I don't know if this is the final mission or not. Which way do we go here? That way. Everything is cleaned out here, so we can just move at speed. Let's go ahead and do combat jumping. So now we're going to have to go into this spot and navigate our way around without hopefully spawning too many behemoths. Okay, so we want to get up there. And then out. They might spawn here, but I'm not going to worry about them, because our glowy should be right around here. Inside, perhaps? This is going to spawn some guys. And it's right there, so we're going to have to fight them. So let's go ahead. Now this is going to be fun, because there's going to be like 12 of them that are going to come out before we defeat the portal. 3 so far. But we've got to get rid of this portal, or they just keep coming out. Okay, so now we can take care of these guys. And they should be no problem. One advantage of the portal is it definitely built our fury up. Since this is the last fight, I'll go ahead and burn some inspirations. Just to get it done a little faster. Look at this, still missed. Alright, and now let's take a look. And that completes the mission. We didn't get a clue. Well, we found all the souls. We've shut down the library. Now we need to take the crystals to Azuria. So I'm going to pause it here, and I'll bring you back when we are with Azuria. Oh, wait. We're getting ambushed. Now I'll pause it here, and I'll bring you back when we are with Azuria. Alright, we are back, and Azuria says, I'm relieved to see that you have recovered all the crystals. As we learn more about these revered souls, I foresee a day when we will be able to release them from their crystal prisons. Okay, so that's not the end of the story arc. He says, it will take Magi years to sort through all these trapped souls, but without you, Quintessence Last, they wouldn't even stand a chance. You know, I've been thinking, do you remember Aston Fletcher, the sailor from the 1600s, whose soul was in the first crystal you found? From what we know, Circle of Thorns started in the 1920s. When Baron Zoria discovered Orenbega and unlocked its magics, how could Ashton have been trapped by the Circle of Thorns way back in the 17th century? I have a feeling that the souls you recovered might still have some things to tell us. Well, that certainly sounds true. We got a whole big story arc going on. And we're going to find out that the Circle of Thorns has been around a lot longer than since the 1920s. But that'll happen next time, guys. Until then, I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes on the Rebirth server.